What is good, NIO family? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this one I'm going to be talking about the one and only NIO stock and what you should be looking after for the future. I'm also going to break down what's going on with NIO's share price, as we may see a big move tomorrow, as tomorrow is going to be the last close before NIO's earnings. So I'm going to break down how this could affect NIO's share price, what's going on with earnings and the data affecting NIO, what's going on with the markets, and why you should be very, very cautious moving forward for the collective market. Before I break anything down about all this information, before I talk about why NIO is still holding up nicely, why it still has lots of potential, I do have to mention a couple of things before starting. Firstly, I am not a financial planner. Take none of this as financial advice whatsoever. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button if you want to see more videos like this. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire community as a whole. And finally, don't forget about the Moomoo link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo and deposit $100 into the account, you are guaranteed 5 free stocks plus $100 in cash as a reward. Now, anyways, let's talk about the market. What on earth is going on? What is going on with NIO? NIO slowed down a bit because the Nasdaq saw a bit of a drop, and so did the QQQ. The QQQ was down over 1.7%, pretty significantly dropping. And I did call this if we broke support, and that's what happened. And as a result, NIO slowed down. We saw Tesla was up quite nicely. It also slowed down over time, and we got some bearish signals. I made some calls about this, and you could see Tesla is slowing down, which is okay. Very, very healthy. I mean, I still think it has more downside to go, but it's going to be very healthy. And then we could see Tesla react to these levels a little bit later on. But I also want to note that NIO is being impacted by all of this, but NIO might become a lone wolf, which means that NIO could still make a very big move tomorrow despite the weakness in the QQQ, because tomorrow is once again the last day before earnings. It's getting very tight right now. It's forming like this wedge. Let me just use the 15-minute, something a little bit smaller so you can see this. It's getting very tight, so we're going to see a big move in one direction. Probably it's going to start pushing up, approaching earnings, if not after earnings. I'm seeing some nice moves for NIO. NIO's earnings is going to be on Friday, right here, on Friday before the market opens. So very early in the morning. Looking at NIO's Twitter page, NIO reported the ET5 Airspace Blue looks very nice. It is the color of the year 2022, and it's very, very deep as the infinity of the universe. Very, very awesome design. I really like the color. It looks quite nice. I really love the sleek design with it, and it's very luxurious. If anything, I would say this is a very nice looking car. I really like the exterior, and I like the backlights. They look very cool too. Very awesome. I love it. Very bullish long term. Nice sedan for NIO. Now, for the data for tomorrow, we have initial jobless claims coming out tomorrow. The forecast is 235,000. We want this to be very close to expectations, if not hotter. The market wants some pain, so we'll see how this causes the market to move. I would still be very careful because we are seeing some weakness after this news. The Bank of Canada has increased their rates by to about 4.75%. That's the highest in 22 years. That was not what the market was expecting. And as a result, the market slowed down because of it. Now, NIO's volume was only 47 million, a little bit below average, but once again, it's getting tight and getting ready for a bigger move. And right now, I'm not too worried about any of this data because once again, earnings is coming out and we have to get ready. We've been seeing a lot of short covering on NIO, which is part of why it has been pumping. It was at $7 just a few days ago. Now it touched almost $8 today before coming down, and it's very, very tight. We might start to see NIO push up very soon, especially tomorrow. Looking at the setup, when I zoom out on NIO, I'm going to use the 4-hour for this. Like I said before, there's a potential cup and handle forming if you want to interpret it that way. We have this potential inverse head and shoulders right here, right? We have this left shoulder, the head, the right shoulder, and then we have these imbalances. 8.6, you're going to be watching that. You're going to be watching this top around 8.8. And there's actually another one. If it breaks above $9, if it holds $9, guys, this thing has this giant gap up here to 9.5 and also even like $10. I mean, that is, you could say it's just, wishful thinking. I'm not counting on $10, but I am seeing signs it's going to make its way to the 8s. I'm holding some calls on it, by the way, not financial advice, but I am. They're green so far. I secured profits on some of them, but not everything. I'm going to be holding for as we approach earnings. Now, I know earnings is risky, so I'm going to be hedging these calls with a different position for the opposite side. What does that mean? I'm not just betting on NIO going up. I'm going to hold opposite positions too, at least to some degree, just to hedge. At the same time, I'm going to manage risks by not risking too much money. I'm not going to go all in on NIO shares, right before earnings. It just doesn't make sense to me. And earnings can be risky, so you got to be very careful. But anyways, looking at the technicals, it is losing some momentum here, so it is slowing down a bit, but it's getting very tight. And you can look at this from a different perspective, like look at your Bollinger Bands, for instance, and you will see it's getting very, very tight. Just like this instance right here, where it got really, really tight, all the way down to the 7.7 area, then it pumped to almost $9. Now it's getting tight and tight and very tight today. Look how tight it got. A big move is coming. My gut tells me it's going to be to the upside based off this accumulation, but I'm going to be open-minded just in case. Watch 7.5 as support, and as resistance, watch it break above 8, 8.2, then 8.61. Now, let me add something else to this. When it comes to the market, SPY is looking a little bit weaker. It is down in the after hours again. It's continuing to look weaker with the 4-hour perspective. But I'm going to be open-minded because we have to watch it break below 4.26 for confirmation. However, looking at the technicals, like I said before, we have this bearish cross on the PPO. It's getting weaker as the day goes on, and the odds are starting to greatly favor it cooling off more and eventually making its way down to these lower levels to retest this like a 424 zone, which is where we have this imbalance. But before it happens, it has to break 426. Now, we have to wait for confirmation, of course, but I think there's a high probability, looking at the technicals, that it's going to be testing 426 again and again and again and eventually break down. I'm saying it's a high probability, not promising it, but based off these technicals, it seems very probable, and I think it's very likely it's going to happen. All right? Once again, always manage risks and be careful. And always know it may take a while because this thing has been stuck or just range trading, so it might not break down tomorrow. It could take a couple of trading days to happen, but I am still leaning in that direction. It's looking weaker as the days go on, and I think there's a very good chance it's going to make its way down there. If it breaks 424, it's going to come down to this like 422.8 area, followed by 420, and after that we have 418. I'm watching all those levels as support. As resistance, we have 427, then 427.5, 428.5, 429, and then the high we made of the day. I'm leaning more in the direction that it's going to continue to test 426 and range trade around here and eventually break below it. That's where I'm leaning towards. I don't know exactly when it's going to happen. It may take a couple of days. But what's more significant for the tech sector, for NIO, would be the QQQ, which is looking weaker. Remember that time, guys, when I was releasing these videos and I was saying that you got to watch these levels, okay? I told you guys that back when this thing was just chopping back and forth, I told you that the pivot point is going to be 353. So if you look at this, just like this, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, this thing was going. We also had a potential head and shoulders forming here. And I told you, if it breaks 353, this thing is going to get rug pulled all the way down to 350. What happened today when we broke 353? All the way down to 350. We even went lower than that, testing the 50 EMA. But as you can see, we're just barely holding it, and we're still looking more bearish on the 4-hour. So if there's an attempt to bounce, it's possible, but it's likely going to continue to trend down, get very close to this imbalance around 347.75. And if that fails, there's going to be 346.5. We may see a lot of sideways price action there. What else you could argue is the possibility of this thing forming like another head and shoulder. I mean, what if this is like a left shoulder, this is the head, and it comes down here, gets one more bounce, and then it breaks down? That's a possibility. Or it could just keep dropping if it fails to hold 346. It's got to be one of those two. I'm leaning more in the direction of it just continuing to drop, but I'm going to be open-minded just in case to see how it reacts to support. Could it bounce right here? It's a possibility. But like I said before, technicals are looking weak, and there's no sign of it getting a big bounce like that yet. So what I'm thinking is it's just going to come down here, trend sideways a little, and then eventually break down maybe next week. And we have these imbalances down here. We have this 340, we have even lower ones. It's likely going to make its way down now that it's turning more bearish. And now that that's happening, it's dragging lots of stocks down. I mean, Tesla slowed down because of it. Not saying Tesla's going to crash hard. I'm not saying that at all. I'm simply saying that Tesla's a little overbought. And because of the QQQ dropping, we might see Tesla slow down. Now, why am I saying that? There's an unfilled gap very close to about this 221 area. I think Tesla's going to test that. After it hits 221, you're going to be watching support and resistance. I don't know if it's going to try to bounce and hold 221 because Tesla's, once again, not super weak. It's going to likely come down a little bit, make an attempt to make a move. But if the QQQ continues to drop the way it appears like it's going to be, not just for tomorrow, but for the next like few weeks, that may slow Tesla down. So that's my warning for all Tesla investors. That's the bearish signal I was talking about. And I'm going to be careful with Tesla because of that. Let me also add that we're going to see how it responds to 221. If it breaks below 221, watch 220, then 218 to 217. Watch those support zones and be very careful with this because the QQQ is looking weaker. Let me also add that NIO may get some downwards pressure because of this, some sideways price action because of this, but it still has potential to make a big move depending on earnings. Maybe it pumps a little bit approaching earnings, then it makes a big move afterwards. If it doesn't pump as much, there's a high probability it may pump after earnings. Why? Does it mean NIO has to kill it for earnings? It doesn't have to be that. Even if NIO's earnings are just decent, uh, even if that's the case, it could still do very, very well. And the reason for that is because one thing you should remember is that Q1 came out and NIO's deliveries were not that bad for Q1. This is just for the Q1 deliveries and their earnings. Q2 is where we started to see some slowdowns in NIO's data. And I can actually pull up NIO's Twitter page just to show you what I'm talking about. So if we look at NIO, we have the numbers right here. Give me 1 second. If you look at their replies, remember, NIO had pretty decent numbers for the first 3 months. And this is the Q1's report. So hopefully you guys can see this. I don't know if you guys can. Let me try to zoom into this. There we go. So look at the numbers, right? First month, a little weak because of Lunar New Year. Second month was strong. Third month was pretty good. Q1 was pretty decent for NIO. They might have decent earnings, even if earnings are not the best. What's going to be important is going to be guidance. What does the CEO William Lee Bin say this time? What if he says something very big about production? What if he announces something big about how we should be expecting a big surge in NIO sales? What if he says that NIO is going to deliver 30,000 cars for the next like quarter for Q3? I don't know, guys. I'm just hypothetically saying those things just because it's possible for there to be a catalyst to pump NIO up again. And William Lee Bin loves to say things like that. Remember what he said last time about the 200,000 plus deliveries, right? Could he be right? Possibly, but it seems unlikely looking at the current numbers. I don't think he's going to be correct about that. But hey, I'm not going to completely cast it aside. It is a possibility. Let's hope you could get some good numbers like that. But anyways, I'm just trying to tell you it's possible for expectations and hype to cause this thing to run after earnings if they get something good. The odds favor a big move to the upside, in my opinion. But I'm always going to be open-minded just in case, and I'm not going all in on NIO. I'm simply just putting in money I'm willing to lose just for earnings, and I have shares on the side for the long term. All right, so that's what I have for this video. Non-financial advice, by the way. I also have some merch for you guys if you want to buy a tank top, a hoodie, or a shirt that says money is calling, or to the moon, or buy the dip. I also want to thank you all for listening. Have an absolutely spectacular rest of the day. NIO to the moon is the long term is very bright, and peace out.